Once you get this far into Dunmorrow, there's not too many more quests to do, so I head up to Ironforge to set my Hearthstone and pick up what quests I can, one of them being the level 10 mage quest. If I had more quests to do, I might have saved this one for later, as it calls for walking all the way to Gnome Reagan just to pick up a Tink from this Tinker box. And I wasn't about to run all the way back to Ironforge, so I take advantage of having just set my home there. The mage quest doesn't really set me up for too much, so it isn't long before I'm heading east. There's a few things to do here, but I'm gonna have to stretch it for as long as I can. The goal is still level 12 before leaving this zone, no exceptions. The first set of quests to do over here involves a whole lot of trogs, in the scariest of places, a cave. At least I have a fellow mage here, so it's not all that bad. I complete the first quest pretty easily, but things get a bit dicey when we cross-pull and everything turns into chaos. By the time I actually finish the second quest, a few things have happened. My backpack is completely full, which is annoying, but well worth over half the level in XP that I got from mobs alone. At this point, I have fully dedicated myself to very rarely leveling without rested XP. It just makes things so much easier. Like getting another quarter of a level just on the way out of the cave. It puts me so close to leveling that turning in the quest ring-a-ding dings me to 11. I don't know what it is about Dunmorrow, but it's way too past Christmas for this kind of cheer. How about some challenge? The mage is rather good at soloing elites, perhaps only second to hunters, so I head on up the mountain to a yeti named Vargosh. If you know, you know, but this guy is a damage sponge and hits like a real life tank as well, so I have to kite him back one frostbolt at a time. The problem is he's still pretty fast, each swing chunking me more and more while I'm running out of mana. This forces me to sheep him in order to call a ceasefire. Granted, I didn't know that sheeping him would fully heal him, I've never played this class in Classic before, but it causes this guard's intervention to cost me the quest credit. I appreciate the help though, as I might have been making a new gnome if he didn't, but it does mean that I'm gonna need another try. The reward was well worth it, earning some green pants with 1 stam and 1 spirit. Between the pants and the solo, I'd say my spirits were pretty darn high, so I decided to spread that cheeriness over east, nearly leaving the zone as I find this pilot whose friend went missing. Yeah, I'm not sure my spirit can fix this, but I can avenge the dude. This bear feels like nothing compared to Vargosh, so at least I can tell the other pilot that I took care of the threat. Let's spread some actual cheer this time as I bring this mountaineer some ale, a much more successful mission, but nowhere near enough to level me up, and with no more quests to do here in Dunmorrow. Good thing there is an entire field of trogs and dark iron dwarfs being pretty unused over here. I'm gonna grind my way to level 12, which ironically takes me a whole 21 minutes to do. See, it's like poetry, they rhyme. With level 12 in my pocket, I can finally head on to Loch Madon, though I can't really say I'm looking forwards to it. Let's save that for another day then. Big Gertha still has to make it out of the Barrens over in Kalimdor. First thing on the docket was completing this dang harpy quest. I still had 5 of the witches to get because it was a hot spot for other players. It still has some people here, but not to the degree it was last time. But the real change is I get invited to the group, so the 5 are easy peasy. I still have a lot of good quests to do here in Durotar, but they're all on literal opposite sides of the zone. So while they are great for XP, the travel times are gonna be a bit long. I decide to start in the middle, at least I intended to, but this is one heck of a dangerous camp. Fast spawning mobs plus multiple bodyguards means Fizzle is too well protected.
Health warning. Health warning. Health warning.
Seeing as it's too dangerous here, I hearth and head west instead, collecting gnome parts from the shipwrecks, easy enough to do when that's all I'm here for. Then I run all the way south to the islands for the troll quest. This one requires some extra caution as the evil trolls are everywhere, but things don't get too dicey. Collecting the skull I needed was easy enough, and the troll leader is in the same area, so it was a 2-for-1 combo deal. 4-for-1 in total if you add the harpy quest and the tool quest, because that's all I need to level up to 11, and I still have 2 directions to go in. North lies a cave with traitorous cultists. Being in a cave itself is bad enough, but a good amount of them have full-strength Voidwalker pets to boot. So almost every pull in here is a 2v2. Like a true Pokemon trainer, I use my imp as fodder to make sure things don't get too dangerous for me. I warned you that this imp was gonna go through it, and so far I've sacrificed him 4 times today. But his sacrifice leads to my success, so it's overall worth in the end. I'm sure he'll agree if I ask. As I get the insignia I need, this will help Thrall track traders within Orgrimmar. That will have to wait though, as west lies a similar quest, only this time I'm looking for an amulet that crocodiles stole? I wasn't really paying attention to the quest text, but hey, whatever gets me my XP. Since I'm not dealing with master thieves here, it doesn't take long to find the necklace, and while I'm nearby, I pick up a quest to help another poisoned troll. I'm starting to notice a theme here in Durotar. This antidote calls for 4 poison sacks from the scorpions that stung the troll. I have a limited amount of time to do it, but the timer ends up being mostly cosmetic, as I still have over 20 minutes by the time I collect what I need. Then I just have to report to Thrall to turn in the insignia quest, which I wasn't paying attention, so I didn't notice that there was a follow-up, so I hearth all the way back to Razor Hill, where I actually do realize that there was a follow-up, but I'm not running back to Orgrimmar. So instead, I farm a bunch of boars to get the rest of the XP that I need. A quarter of my bar later, and I'm heading into the Barrens. Turning in the introduction quest gets me level 12 and a trip to the crossroads, but we're gonna be going north to Teldrassil to finally get out of that dang zone. I'm hopping back on the Hunter with 2 big power upgrades, one in the form of a level 8 staff that's 2 whole DPS better than the one I currently use, and the second I still have to tame, my Hunter pet. The quest chain to get the ability to tame my very own companion involves practicing on increasingly dangerous mobs, one of which I come back for once I actually unlock the ability to tame my own. Purely because I thought birds would love bread that I stockpiled in preparation for getting my very own pet. But no, that totally doesn't make sense. Why would birds be able to eat bread? People totally don't go around feeding bread to ducks or anything. But you know what people do feed bread to? Apparently, it would be crabs, which is actually backed up by SpongeBob because Mr. Krabs is always chasing that bread. So you know what? I'll let this one slide. That show is unironically well known for its accuracy. Once I get back from Darkshore with my new crab companion, I return to a place I said I wouldn't, because I lied to you guys. Kinda. I mostly forgot that I returned here, but a fellow Nelf inviting me to the party makes it go so much smoother than last time. It's a fair 3-on-3 fight this time around. The Claw is now on the other team. My team. Conquering my fears, plus all the pet quests gets me 2 bars away from level 11. A pretty good XP injection I wouldn't have had on any other class. It allows me to ding 11 while doing a harpy quest that calls for collecting belts. At least, I think they're belts. But I've already exhausted the lack of clothes on Harpy's joke by now. Collecting all that I need was easy enough, after which I take a little bit of a break, coming back with the rest of my bar fully rested. I was already close to having it fully rested in the first place, but extra is extra. After turning in the Harpy quest, I head down to the river to collect some tumors that have moss growing on them apparently. I can understand why someone would want to study this kind of thing. It's a natural marvel. While I'm here, I keep my eye out for a rare spawn that drops a quest, heading up and down the river just in case he isn't where the quest says he is. But no luck on that end before I get all the tumors. So it's upwards and onwards to a nearby spider mother. She's been causing some problems, so a bounty has been put on her spinnerets, which are easy enough to collect, but getting out with them, not so much. I end up causing the mother of all chain pulls. My crab had to be sacrificed for my survival, but I'm sure a bit of bread will cheer him right up, especially with the promise of another round of searching for that rare spawn. But as promising as it is, no luck once again. So I head back to turn in the quests I already have, which turns out to be a lot more XP than I expected, getting me to and shooting past level 12, a whole quarter of the way towards 13, the price of which is a pretty barren quest log, but that only means we're close to done with this place. I could be on my way to Darkshore since I hit my level 12 goal, but I decide to tough it out and finish what I have here. Level 13 is too juicy of a target. Turning in the Mossy Tumor quest gives me a new one calling for a Gargantuan tumor. I'm not sure you can just take these things out this easily, but hey, you're the boss. So I make my way down the lake to a damp cave where I find a big boy, who would normally be a problem, but I brought backup, in the form of my pet. It's kind of nice feeling OP. Turning in the tumor gets me halfway to 13 with one more quest to do, allegedly. Heading back up the lake and far into the tree brings me to a heavily fortified furball camp. And by fortified, I just mean there's a lot of them here. And some of them are casters, so I have to be extra careful with my pulls. As careful as a hunter needs to be, that is. The quest calls for taking out their leader, and the fight up to him was tougher than he actually is, leading to a quick in and out adventure that doesn't quite level me up, but there's still one more quest I can get here. So I head down to the river one more time, and you know what they say, third time's the chime or something like that. And what did you know, he's actually here, an even bigger boy than the big boy we fought in the cave, but still no match for Mr. Crab and I. So I collect the item that starts the quest, which is both my ticket to level 13 and to Darkshore, another zone that I've never done before in Classic. But we have one more character to get out of their starting zone, well, their second adopted starting zone over in Tirisfal Glades. Since my priest came over at level 8, there's still a lot to do here in Tirisfal. Starting over here at the pumpkin farm, my first quest calls for collecting some rings off the Scarlet Brotherhood. I gotta imagine dealing with these guys back in the day was something else. Some people had to have accidentally wandered towards the Scarlet Monastery to see just how strong the Brotherhood really was. But that doesn't stop me from beating their butts and taking their rings. By the time I do, I only have a quarter of a level left to get. Perhaps these murlocs nearby will do the trick. It turns out the answer was no, but they do get me pretty darn close to leveling, enough that turning in both quests does do the trick, hitting level 11. Level 12 is going to be just as easy, thanks to the level of the quest that I'm doing being lower than I am. Like here at the mills, I need to play cleanup as things over here have been overrun by the undead. One quest calls for collecting some skulls and ribs, for some reason. The other quest wants me to pick up the entire remains of 4 different individuals. Both are easy and bountiful quests to do, after which I head south. Here we find another concentration of Scarlet Brotherhood, this detachment led by a captain. This captain is our primary target. There's a friendly undead here who asks me to group up, so we take him down together, leaving a few more lackeys to fell before I go back to Brill. These 3 quests put me in striking distance of level 12, which I achieve via mob grinding. My goal is now to hit level 14 before leaving this zone. It'll put my priest at the highest level out of any class so far going into the tier 2 zones. Once I'm 12, my next focus is another farm, this one infested by the Scourge. A plentiful amount of them too, enough for a quarter of a level by the time I slay the correct amount to complete the quest. Nearby is another captain of the Scarlet Brotherhood, so I head up there, but this one wasn't gonna go down as easy. It takes not one close call,
Health warning.
not 2 close calls, but a total of 3 close calls to take him down. However, in the end, I do come out victorious. I celebrate by hunting down some spiders for their venom sacs. Nothing too notable about these guys though. I hope they don't get upset at me for saying that, however, their words can be a bit venomous. Not that I care when I'm so close to level 13. Hearthing back to Brill and turning in the quest puts me 1 bat away from leveling up, putting only 1 level in the way of me heading to Silverpine Forest. Let's call it extra credit. I come back to my priest with a nearly full bar of rested XP, ready for my milestone. This mirrors my rogue's questing path pretty well, as I start with the Wailing Ancestors up north. This quest calls for a lot of mobs to be taken down, perfect for using my rested XP bar. I was perhaps a bit too eager as things get dicey down here in the catacombs, but it's nothing lethal, not to me at least. I hand Dargal his second whipping of his lifetime. Well, I guess this is part of his unlifetime. Either way, he's no match for my holy prowess. Once I collect, I hearth back to Brill again. Heading north, but northeast this time, leads me to the start of the Lich's quest. Something I'll be saving for later as I have one more Scarlet captain to take care of. I was a bit nervous as this guy has 2 bodyguards this time, but I'm a whole level higher than I was, so what could go wrong? And it seems my faith is well placed as I burst down one of the bodyguards and go for broke. I do have to use the health pot, but once again I am victorious. My reward is a victory run all the way back to Brill and the Undercity, since I already used my Hearthstone. Another reward is the back and forth of the Lich quest, but with the power of editing, I can skip right to the summoning phase, which goes as smooth as butter. A very odd saying considering how unsmooth butter can be, but it fits extra well here as I almost chain pulled. The rest of this quest line doesn't quite level me up, I'm still 4 bars away, but that's nothing a bunch of wargs can't fix. So I make my way towards Silverpine. Along the way I fight everything in my path until I hit Rockin' 14, the highest level so far, that you've seen at least. Who knows what the future holds, however. That marks every class that isn't Paladin or Shaman leaving the starting zone, and we're getting very close to introducing those two into this tale, so subscribe not to miss that. If you enjoyed this installment of the Mega Hardcore Challenge, hit that like button. I will see you in the next one. My name has been Kale, and have a wonderful journey.